Hello and welcome back to your Pennsylvania Dutch Minute. This episode, I would like to highlight two books that might be of interest to anyone out there in Pennsylvania Dutch land. Maybe some of you have heard of these books before, but maybe you haven't. And I thought they're two really good books that deal with us and our culture and our history. So I thought, and they're written in English, so you don't have to have knowledge of the Pennsylvania Dutch language to read these books and enjoy them. So I just thought I'd introduce them to you, give you a brief overview, and at the end of the video, and down below in the comment section on YouTube here, I'll include links to where you can purchase these books. These are my personal reviews of the books. I'm not getting paid by the authors or anything like that. I just felt it was a good opportunity for me to share some possible books with you guys dealing with us, the Pennsylvania Dutch. And the very first one is called Damn Dutch, the Pennsylvania Germans at the Battle of Gettysburg. Predominantly written by Dr. David Voluska, who is now retired, but a former history professor of history at Kutztown University. He did have help with a couple other historians as well, Christian Keller, Scott Hartwig, and Martin Oefle. The four of them combined put this book together. For anyone that is a Civil War nut or really loves the Civil War, great book. Even if you don't have any Pennsylvania Dutch ties, if you're interested in the Civil War, this is a really great book. Allow me to just read a little bit of a description from the text itself to give you a better idea. Damn Dutch is the first work to highlight the contributions at the Battle of Gettysburg of regiments of Pennsylvania Dutch, the descendants of 18th century German-speaking immigrants who had developed their own dialect and culture in Pennsylvania, and post-1820 German-born immigrants. On the first day of the battle, the Union Army's 1st Corps, in which many Pennsylvania Dutch regiments served, and the half-German 11th Corps, which had 5 regiments of either variety in it, bought with their blood enough time for the Federals to adequately prepare the high ground, a sacrifice that proved critical in the end for the Union victory. On the second day, they participated in beating back Confederate attacks that threatened to crack the Union defenses on Cemetery Hill and in other strategic locations. This book focuses on the distinctions and tensions between the two groups, then lumped together and sometimes referred to simply as the Damn Dutch, and how their ethnic identities shaped their behavior before, during, and after the battle. So yeah, real quick, we have the Pennsylvania Dutch. We've been here since the 1700s and early 1800s, prior to the Civil War. We developed our own culture. Our language was developed here in colonial America and post-Revolution America. And when the Civil War came, a lot of Pennsylvania Dutch were either drafted or willingly went to fight for the Union in various Pennsylvania regiments throughout the Army of the Potomac. What a lot of people don't realize is there were a lot of other German-speaking German Americans that were also in the Union Army, and a lot of them came later than the traditional Pennsylvania Dutch came. A lot came post-1820. There was a wave of German immigration, and they necessarily weren't us. They didn't come from the same region of Germany that we came from. They had a different dialect, different version of German, but a lot of times to the non-Germans in the army, of course, we were all the damn Dutch, so a lot of times we were lumped together. And you had two ethnic groups that even though we had kind of some shared similarities, there were a lot of differences too. So this book not only looks at, our contribution at the Battle of Gettysburg, but it also shows and highlights the tension between the ethnically and traditional Pennsylvania Dutch soldiers in the Union Army as they came into contact with non-Pennsylvania Dutch Germans who were also fighting for the Union. It's a great book that looks at that little bit of history that most people don't realize. Again, it is written completely in English, so no deal about, you don't have to worry about not knowing Pennsylvania Dutch to understand it and enjoy it. If you like history, if you like the Civil War, I really recommend this book. There aren't too many books out there that deal with of how we fought in the Civil War, so this is, probably the go-to book in regards to that. So, Damn Dutch, David Voluska, link down below. Totally changing gears, but staying in the realm of books, my next recommendation to anyone out there is for all you foodies out there, or anyone that loves Pennsylvania Dutch food. Who doesn't, right? We have a very rich culture and a very rich food history, and in my opinion, the go-to book to learn about our culinary history and our contributions to American culinary history is As American as Shoofly Pie by William Royce Weaver. The subtitle, The Food Lore and Folklore and Fake Lore, of Pennsylvania Dutch Cuisine. And we got a lot going on here in the cover. Of course, we have the groundhog with his pretzel, and we have a shoofly pie and Pennsylvania Dutch candies. This book is excellent. William Royce Weaver is the expert in Pennsylvania Dutch foodways and Pennsylvania Dutch food culture. So, just to give you an idea of what this book covers, it does cover, of course, it's broken up into various chapters. I'd like to just read a couple of the chapter titles to you. There's a chapter that looks at the difference between the urban Pennsylvania Dutch diet and the rural Pennsylvania Dutch diet. It talks about a whole chapter about our love affair with dumplings and how the dumpling was brought from the old world to the new world, how it changed here in the new world. There's a there's a chapter that deals just with pig stomach and how tourism affected Pennsylvania Dutch cuisine. There's one chapter called The Cabbage Curtain, which, of course, as you know, if you're familiar with Pennsylvania Dutch food, cabbage plays a major role in our diet. There's a chapter on waffles and the waffle culture that surrounds Pennsylvania Dutch food. And then what also is really great about this book is that he includes, I don't even know how many, 25, 30 plus recipes. Not only how to prepare these foods, the ingredients, but also the history behind them and, where they come from, why we eat them, etc., traditions associated with food. Again, this book is written completely in English. It is a joy to read. Anyone that loves Pennsylvania Dutch food, of course, anyone that loves to cook, even if you didn't grow up Pennsylvania Dutch, maybe you're married to a Pennsylvania Dutch man or woman and you're not Pennsylvania Dutch and they're always like, oh, I miss my grandmother's whatever, and you have no idea what they're talking about, or you'd like to learn more, like, what is shoofly pie? Why is it called shoofly pie? What are booba schenkel? What's schnitzengnepp? All that is covered in this book. It is wonderful. I read this so fast. I mean, when I started reading this, it went cover to cover in no time. And then I tried out a couple of the recipes, of course. Some of the recipes I was familiar with, but there are some recipes in there from the 17 and 1800s that necessarily aren't made anymore, but there's no reason that we couldn't bring them back. Some really great stuff. So I highly, highly recommend As American as Shoofly Pie, which I like that title alone. And, the play on, of course, As American as Apple Pie. But Shoofly Pie is pretty darn American, and you learn about why, and the development of that pie in this book. Highly, highly recommend it. William Royce Weaver did a wonderful job. It's a fun read, even if you don't like to cook. It just gives you a great historical background and of where our food comes from, why we eat what we eat, and why our diet, how our diet has changed over the years, of course, coming from rural agricultural-based society to where we are today, and what we've held on to, and maybe why those things still tug at our heartstrings and our arteries as well. So, 2 books for you to consider: Damn Dutch by David Valeska and As American as Shoofly Pie by William Royce Weaver. Again, I'll have links down below where you can purchase these books online. I highly recommend both. I'll do a couple videos like this in the future highlighting some other books that I recommend for anyone out there that would like to read more about the Pennsylvania Dutch culture, history, language, foodways. But until next time, if you have an idea for a future video, please email me. My address is, of course, at the end of the video. And keep practicing your Pennsylvania Dutch. Get out there and buy some of these books. Increase your knowledge about us and our culture and our history. And until next time, Mox Good.
That's good.